All right, and with that, we are live. Thanks for joining us. And we have with us today Gavin, of course, and Mark. Mark is representing Gaxis today. Dan could not make it. He's traveling with family, which is great. I'm glad he's able to finally get away. But it's always good to have
Yeah, thanks for
someone.
having me.
Oh, you bet, Mark. Thanks for taking the time to join us. It's always great to have someone representing Gaxis on these calls, just because there are Gaxis related questions that I think are important
Of
to
course.
answer. So
Yeah.
we have some pre-submitted questions in front of us, and we'll be going through that. If we have time, we'll also bring up some people live as well. Just really briefly, Mark, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself? And just for the people who maybe don't know,
Sure.
tell us a little bit briefly about who Gaxis is and why did they partner with Zeta?
Okay, so Gaxi is an investment fund. I'll tell you a little bit about myself first, so everyone's got an understanding of my background. I've over 15 years' experience in the financial markets. I've worked with a lot of startups raising the initial capital. Then I work on taking them to the IPO listing on exchanges like the Nasdaq and London Stock Exchange. However, I got introduced into the cryptocurrency market in around 2016, and I helped build one of the first cryptocurrency funds to outperform Bitcoin. Since then, I've just basically spent my time in the blockchain sector and migrating on and off chain because we've seen such a large demand in that area. So Gaxi's it is a hedge fund in essence, really. So we manage ultra net worths and sophisticated investors, and we put their money into loan notes, bonds. We do IPOs. We have a lot of contacts throughout the London city, through the States. And we got into the crypto space quite early on. And that's one of the reasons that Gaxi's headhunted myself in 2017, because they saw, that even though I have a financial background and a regulated background, I was very interested in building the alternative space. And, the rest is history, really. In regards to why Zeta and why Gaxi's, I suppose it's one of those situations where the DeFi space, the massive goal here is to fix it, right? Because it doesn't really, work on a lot of the previous projects that have been in the space have failed. Bridging off-chain and on-chain is a very difficult task. And really, it requires two opposites. And in the situation of, if you like, Zeta and Gaxi's, the two opposites attract.
And just to clarify, if someone wants to be a client of Gaxis, an individual, what does that look like? What did they need to bring to the table just to be a client of Gaxis?
Well, I mean, for standard high net worth individuals is $1 million, but that's not something that we look at. The minimum entry level is around $10 million of net worth, because it's a large pot that we're working with, and it is just ultra high net worth that we really deal with. And the reason for that is that, if you are dealing with anyone under that sort of capability, you fall into the realm, if you like, of unaffordability. And, not all projects, are affordable. Some of the entry levels, there's $250,000 just, to even, get involved in some projects. And they're the small ones. So if somebody's sitting with, $1 million around them in a net value, it's too much of an exposure for them. So typically $10 million upwards.
That's what I love about what we are doing here is that we're taking something typically you would need, like you said, $10 million. And I know, the minimum investment requirement's pretty high. I mean, if you're like most people here, probably tuning in, maybe I'm wrong on this, but most of us probably don't have just $10 million sitting around, right? So being able to bring a service like that to the blockchain and kind of sort of bypassing a lot of those requirements, I think is something truly unique. Because I don't think,
For sure.
I think, and this may sound a little bad, but I think a lot of the folks in the cryptocurrency space don't really understand a lot of these traditional finance services that exist. They don't really understand, I think, and myself included, by the way, I include myself in that conversation.
Yeah.
They don't understand the returns that are really possible in traditional finance. And I think that is what makes cryptocurrency and DeFi so attractive. But there are similar, if not greater, returns in traditional finance. You just have to be kind of the big boys to participate with that.
Yeah, and well, I mean, there's certainly safer returns as well. What I would say with the crypto space is, from my experience of going through the cycle periods, and if I look at 2017 as an example, where Bitcoin was dropping down to a lovely 3,000-ish entry, and we pushed all the way up to 63k, or depending on whatever exchange you're on, maybe slightly higher. And now we're in a capitulation down to 20k. Now, if you're not a sophisticated investor, I know countless people that have gone from having a net asset worth of, say, 50k, got into the crypto space, suddenly been over 500k, maybe in some situations where they've done well on micro cap projects and small cap projects, over $1 million, and they've not known when to give up or when to call it a day and move into traditional products, and they've gone all the way back down to the bottom. And that is one of the reasons that Gaxties and myself are so strong on helping guide this process, and almost like a hold the hand process with a treasury pot, because what you actually do is you help people not going through this same cycle of up, down, up, down. It's an emotional roller coaster.
Absolutely.
We watch all these YouTube videos of Doomer and Boomer. I'm sure a lot of people have seen them, and it's true to life with a lot of crypto investors, because they're not. And this isn't me being, unkind. It's just reality. They're not skilled investors. They've not done the training, and there's a lot of hype in this market with influencers and YouTube, and you get a lot of influencers that aren't correct in what they do and don't necessarily do it the right way. So I feel that with the process of bridging the gap of on-chain to off-chain, we can actually help people make the money in the crypto space, retain the money in the real world space, and then when the bottom comes back into the market, get involved again, and you'll be in a stronger position than just holding crypto and living and breathing crypto and going through the ups and downs.
Let me ask a brief question before we get into our list of questions here, just from the Gaxis side of things. So I've always said that, wise and smart investors can make money whether the market's going up or whether the market's going down, right? If you're a smart investor, it really doesn't matter which direction the market's going. You can still be successful. Because you guys deal a lot. I mean, I know you deal a lot with cryptocurrency, but you're also dealing with equities and commodities and, trading algorithms and things like that. In a market like this where everything seems to be crashing, how does that affect what you guys do, or does it?
Well, I'll give you an example. That's a really good point. And again, that's what distinguishes us from an investor on the street, right? Because I've had countless people ringing me going, "Oh, Mark, this must be destroying you guys. Like, the market's capitulating." I'm like, no, we've been shorting Bitcoin and ETH for the last 8 weeks. We've been doing that on a very strong leverage from, over 36k down to 20k. So we're actually making money because we have traders that adjust based on market conditions. So from our perspective, I think it's great for us. A downtrend is brilliant, because what it does is clears the decks of a load of rubbish projects that because you do get projects that that in a bull run, lots of projects pop up, and everyone's a hero in a bull run, and everyone's a trader
Absolutely.
in a bull run, because you can't not make money, really. On a downtrend, it separates the sort of real people in this space, and we short the market, and we have analysts that look at the market. They look at market sentiment. They look at the volume. This is a full-time job. We do use algo bots as well. We've used Pinex, Crypto Hopper, ones that we use parameter bots with KuCoin. We do all the normal grid trade and DCA trading. We're even working on our own Python tech to actually build our own bot. But, we don't just have one strategy, because if you just have one strategy, it's impossible to beat market conditions. You
Absolutely.
have to have a multiple of different strategies, and that includes on-chain products, because we all want to go on-chain and off-chain, because there will be points where the market is in a position where we think we're better off to move USDT or USDC into the dollar and put it into a bond, or buy a blue chip IPO at discount, because we have the ability to do that. And we'll wait until there's an entry point in the crypto market to load the whole amount again with the profits from the real world products back into the digital space. So it's a very big beast, and that's why we have a very big operation globally.
Well, we are very happy to be partnered with you guys. I always say this: Gaxis is the secret sauce behind XETA. Okay, there is no other Gaxis that I know of that has partnered with any other blockchain sort of project like this, that has really brought the value back to DeFi from the off-chain. I know others have tried to do it, but there is no self-regulatory organization. There's nothing like that exists in crypto. That's why I love the fact that we have partnered with you guys. And I know that I've spoken to Dan about having a Gaxis only AMA. Just bring several of you guys on, and that's going to be super beneficial, I think, for the community, and we will work on that. Maybe in the next week or so, get you guys to come on. And
sure.
Yeah.
And just to sort of add also, I mean, it's a joint venture of Secret Source, because of what you guys have done and your experience. And the reason isn't, we didn't just partner with you guys because we think, these guys are all right. Our founders and, you guys, you have a relationship with us and have built reputation in the crypto space. And, you guys are, from our perspective, at a high level in the crypto space also. Yes, we've worked with other projects in the crypto space as well, but it's an equal understanding and respect level there. It's not just, it's both sides from my side.
Oh, thank you, Mark. It definitely goes both ways. Before we hop into the questions, Gavin, you have anything you want to add on to our conversation here at all?
No, sir. I am just waiting for the AMA questions. But Mark, I appreciate everything you said, and just to reiterate what Showtime said, it's a privilege to work with Gaxis. Y'all make it easy. Thank you.
We try.
All right. I got a list of questions here. Let's go through these. So the very first one is, somebody's asking, what are the possible charities who could benefit from the DEX transactions, and can these be located anywhere in the world? I think this is more of a Gavin question. You want to take this one? Deals more with the charity aspect?
Correct. So our intentions are to create a pre-curated list and then take it to the community, maybe even adding into the DApp the ability to choose or elect where you would like your funds to go to. There's another question that's going to be asked, like 2 questions from now, but I'll just go ahead and answer it right now. We do have about 3 members of the core team who have an extensive 501c3 background. They will be doing the sourcing of these organizations. Anyone who's ever worked in this field, you understand there's a lot of due diligence that is required. If you want to talk about hopium in the crypto market, it's just like that in the NGO and nonprofit space. Everybody wants to do the mission. I believe that everyone has a good intent, but the devil are in the details and the execution. So we want to ensure that if we're sending funds, we will have thresholds. So for example, we might say, 90 cents out of every dollar that is donated has to go to the mission, which means that we would have to partner with organizations that have very lean run rates or very lean operational. So that's an example of sort of the metrics we would put into place. And sorry, but we're answering another question, and I'll just reference this again, but I hope that answers the question. Anything like to add to it?
No, I think you answered that pretty well. So, another question somebody's asking: it seems that the team doesn't have Zeta nor zone allocations. How or who is covering the team's salary? Well, I can kind of answer this, and feel free to jump in if you'd like when I'm done. As far as nobody's getting tokens, just so you know, there's no, hey, founders allocation tokens, and then some event happens with that. That's not going to happen. Nobody's getting tokens to dump on anybody. As far as zones, we've been so busy building this project, we really haven't sat down and agreed on whether we're going to get zones or not get zones or any of that kind of stuff. So honestly, it's not something that's even like really been agreed on. That's been vaguely even spoken about, Frank. It's just been too busy building the project itself. As far as who's covering the team's salary, that will come out of expenses, the business operational expenses, and that's where that goes to. That's part of the claim fee as well as the monthly membership fee, where 25% goes to the business operations. Part of that will go to cover salaries. And but by the way, there's another question that I'll expand on this later, but businesses have to run within their means, right? And I know that, in the blockchain space, I think lacks a lot of entrepreneurship and business experience. And there's just oftentimes like, whether it's exorbitant payroll or it's just expenses, you have money flying all over the place, I think everybody that's involved in Zeta, at least most of the founders, have all run businesses before. So we understand that, hey, if you make X number of dollars, you can't pay someone some crazy salary if the business can't, afford it. So every dollar will be budgeted and allocated appropriately. I just want to make that very clear. So whatever, the money that comes in will be budgeted specifically, whether it's certain expenses, and that includes payroll as well. So it's not going to be some crazy sort of thing that the business can never actually sustain. Let's see. Another question is, will there be a dedicated person from the team who is leading the vetting and the liaison of the charities? I think you kind of already answered that, Gavin. There is a dedicated person.
Correct. Yes, and I tried not to. I was going to wait, but it kind of just segued perfectly into it. I wish we'd have moved those questions, but we have about 3 members of the team that'll be heading it up. But again, as I mentioned, it'll be a partnership with the community as well and the individual member. Our ultimate goal, if we can get it to execute, would be that when you go to do your trade, you would elect where you would want your participation to go to. Just that way we can sort of do what we've been doing, which is curating your experience to yourself. At the end result, we want our project just via the trading to support positive activities globally. That's our end result. We don't want to dictate exactly which ones they are, and we would prefer that people weren't forced to support anything that they may not agree with. The idea is that we will have a broad palette of options, and then folks will be able to elect from those. That's sort of our intent. And then as it gets closer and as we share more with the community, we'll take feedback, and it'll be a malleable process. And I think it's going to be one of those examples of where, as the community works with us, they'll see that our goal is to execute, but we always want to make sure that the community, the Zeta community, has their fingerprints on everything that we do.
Yeah, great.
As long as it doesn't affect the critical path.
Absolutely. And just to add on to that, guys, when it comes to the charities, there's going to be a specific wallet just for the charity. So you're going to be able to track all that and view the wallet, when funds have gone out, where they've gone to. My sort of goal, just for me, and I think the team shares this as well, is to have the people who are on these charities organizations that are able to use these funds that we are providing to benefit that organization actually come on and talk about it, what are they doing, how the funds being used, and that sort of thing. That way it really gives a more of a personal feel to it. And, we can actually show, and we will show through the financial audits as well as on-chain wallet, how those funds are actually being used and when they go out, so that you could all track that just like you should be able to do. Somebody's asking, when will the financial services catalog be defined and made available for us to see? So I did reveal this yesterday, that there's going to be 3 specific services. And again, these are not the only ones. These are just the 3 ones that we are starting out with. The first one from bottom to top is what we're calling like a blue chip. On the dashboard, it currently says blue chip. What it is it's almost like, and Mark, I'm sure can probably even add into this as well.
Yeah,
But
no, I'm aware of this, but feel free to continue, and I can chip in at the end if you like.
yeah, sure. So the first one is sort of like a blue chip account where you have an actual manager managing the, I believe it's just equities, Mark, but they're trading in and out of blue chip, I believe, equities in order to earn a return. It's sort of a, I think it's called an ISA, kind of like an ISA
Correct.
sort of situation. Anything you want to add on to what that actually is, how that works?
Again, it's just a case of making a profit from trading in and out. It's just one example of a very liquid market with nice, fluid movements. It's the same with the discounted blue chip IPO stuff. These are all. I know everyone's eager to get this catalog list, and this has come up a lot. But it's getting that, if you like, on-chain to off-chain is, as you're aware, it's a massive job, isn't it? And until the actual product is rolling at a good speed, the whole mechanics and the system don't run, if that makes sense, because you have to have the machine running to start shelling it like peas, if that makes sense. So it's the same with some of the investment, if you like, the loan note, convertible loan notes into equity. To get the sort of deals that we get, which will benefit everyone that's involved, you need to be putting large amounts into the actual bonds. Otherwise, no one takes you serious in this space. Does that make sense? It goes back to the same principle of why it's always ultra net worths of the rich get richer, so to speak, because they put $10 million in and they get these massive monthly coupon payments because they can lock that money up and leave it for 1 year. And it's the same principle with some of these products that you're talking about. So the catalogue, I think, would be released by the end of the first quarter. You might want to correct me if that's wrong, but that's what I had in my schedule. That was approximately around that sort of time that the financial services catalogue would be available fully on the dashboard then.
Yes, you're correct. And that is actually a separate question as well. So you do have this sort of bottom tier service, and that is, like I said, like a dedicated account manager that's trading on your behalf, like a shares. Go ahead and Google a shares ISA. Look at what that is. It's sort of like that on steroids. That's really the best way for me to describe it. The middle tier service is going to be, like Mark mentioned, private equity. So you have IPOs, which is when a stock, initial public offering, they come onto the market and you can buy shares. There's oftentimes a pre-IPO, so then you have even before that. And those are typically...
Yeah, so that's just a discounted version.
Yeah. Right. Exactly. And that's private equity in that's a discount that is negotiated and worked on by Gaxis, right? That typically is going to require a minimum of 250K. So, the thing is that as you unlock these services, they will require some capital to use. We are, by the way, working on a way to use your XETA tokens for that. I can't say that we'll be able to use it for all of it, but for many of the services, I think we have a way for you to actually use your XETA token, giving them even more utility to your rewards. But because it requires a minimum of 250K, it's going to look like a sort of like a crowdfunding platform, like a Kickstarter, where you pool your money together. And then if the 250K minimum is hit, then all of a sudden you get the fractionalized whatever you put in. And that's how we basically get around that, then open that up as an opportunity.
That's like a private equity pool that we're putting together, isn't it?
Yep.
Yeah.
And then, of course, the one most people have been talking about is the high-frequency trading bots that I know Gaxis does least. There's like 5 or 6 of different ones that you guys use. And I said, okay, this is sort of like what Freeway does, right? I know you guys have all of the same broker licenses, banking licenses to do this. And I said, why don't we put a front-facing dashboard UI on top of this and allow people to stake a stable coin or even move their Zeta token in and take advantage of these personally, right, once they hit a certain zone level. So those are the three services. And yes, by the end of the first quarter, now some people have asked, is that the first quarter of next year? No, it is the first quarter after public launch, so 3 months after at the very latest. Now we could do it beforehand, but it's one of those under promise and over deliver type of situations. It would be no later than 90 days after launching. So hope that helps. All right, somebody's asking, is the claim fee per zone a fee based on XP rewards accrued regardless of how many zones are claimed? So let me clarify something on that question. In the pre-sale, you are buying the XP token. One zone is 10 tokens. That is a pre-sale token. When we publicly launch, the actual token is going to be the Zeta token. Okay, this pre-sale token has no value by itself. The reason you're getting a pre-sale token is so that people don't have tokens, the Zeta token, they just dump on launch day. So you're forced to build the zone. So I just want to clarify, on public launch day, when you build your zones, you're earning the Zeta token. XP is just a mechanism to not dump your tokens in the build zones. And the claim fee is per zone regardless of how many rewards you've accrued during that time. Okay, and it is sort of also based on the token price. As the token price goes up, the claim fee would be modified, and so on and so forth. Every business has its operating expenses, and Zeta is no different. How many zones are required to keep the project running to cover project expenses? I have a thought on this, and Gavin, you can of course jump in if you'd like. So there's a TV show, and I know Gavin knows where I'm going with this, called The Profit, Profit, with Marcus Lemonis. One of the things I see on that show over and over again, he goes into businesses basically and helps fix the businesses, right? So, for example, he'll go into a restaurant and say, okay, you have these items on your menu. How much does this item cost to make? And you realize that the people running the business have never actually sat down and realized how much it costs to make. So they'll have a menu item that they find out actually costs $5 to make, yet they're selling it for $4. So they're actually losing money, right? The reason I bring that up is because a lot of businesses, you can tell the lack of entrepreneurship by the way they handle their cash flow, right? So every business only makes a certain amount of money, right? So that means you have to budget based on the amount of money you make. So you can't pay somebody, for example, $1 million a year if you only make $500K a year as a business, right? You have to, just like individuals have to live within their means, a business has to live within its means, has to operate within its means. So regardless of how much money the project and the business actually makes, everything will be budgeted accordingly to turn that $1 into $2, whether literally investing it or in terms of getting value from people or paying for expenses and things like that. So I guess the answer to your question is that there is no specific zone number required to keep the business running. It's that the business can really run almost on any number. It just needs to be, you have to have money budgeted accordingly and properly so that you don't just waste money, right? Really, that's the kind of the long and short of it. Anything you want to add to that, Gavin, at all?
Yeah, just a little bit, a little smidge at the end. I think the intention of the question is, is there an amount of zones we have to have in operations to cover just basic operational expenses, keeping the servers running, keep the lights on, basic maintenance operations? The answer is no. Our operational fees are fairly low. The way that we're doing compensation for the team is based on milestones and based on the health of the project. So if the project isn't doing well, then we personally will not be doing well. If the project does great, then we do great. And we thought that was the only way to make it fair. That's another reason why we didn't do founders allocations, no upfront payments, no back-end deals, no waterfalls. Everything is simply based on if everything works, then we get paid out of operations. And everything's relational, similar to how we designed the entire project, so that we'll never run into an issue where, if we didn't hit a certain growth rate, or if we didn't convert, or if we didn't protect a coin price, or if we didn't do anything or hit any KPI, we'll never run into an issue where, we've spent more than we've ingested That will never happen. And that goes to what Matt was saying. Just and I'm sorry, I do love that TV show. I watched it for probably 8 years. It's one of the shows that first inspired me to become an entrepreneur right after Shark Tank. But Mark Simonis, he does. He talks about people, process, and product. And to be frank, we have a beautiful primo product. We have amazing people that are competent, compassionate, and just workhorses. And we've got the processes. The last 30 days or so, we've just been churning and burning. And I'm proud to say that the community, those of you that have joined early on, the ones that are listening right now, even, thank you for giving us your ear this early. But I think you've all seen the proof has sort of been in the pudding. Everything that we've been doing. I just wanted to support you earlier, Mark, when you said, because I know some of the internal things that you and Dan are doing. When people ask, what is the partnership between Gaxis and XETA, there are things that we are doing for XETA, such as just lowering that barrier to entry, right? You don't have $10 million. You're not an ultra high net worth individual. You can come be a Zetarian. You can come purchase a zone. You get to participate in the exact same markets, the exact same investment sleeves. Booyah.
Agreed.
The only way to do that, though, are through these custom UI dashboards that XETA are creating. So Dan and Mark are having to go to these different subject matter experts within Gaxis, go to all these program managers and say, hey, we're doing something a little bit different with this partner. Can we get this data or that data? So, for example, whereas these ultra high net worth people, they don't want to manually configure and invest their stuff the same way that one of our members might want to have more control over where they're investing their monies. Well, that means the dashboard has to be readable by an average Joe, not an analyst. So we have to do a lot of mind mapping. Our UI folks have to go through. We have to do sessions. We're doing focus groups. And we're totally redesigning a UI for and not to be rude, but for a layman average Joe, somebody who has entrusted us to be the stewards of their funds. They should be able to look at it, navigate it, maybe watch a quick video from Showtime, wink, wink, and they should be able to pilot it and see their life improve, as opposed to an analyst, someone who went to school, etc. I'll stop there, but that's the only thing I would add.
Yeah, I'll also add something.
I agree with that also, because what is good is it's explaining that obviously this whole space in crypto and financial market can be complicated to some people, and it's letting people get involved that in a space where ultra net worths could only get involved, and it's making it simple. And for every person, it doesn't disclude anyone then, which is great, and that's the way it should be. And that is one of the reasons I personally turned to the crypto space and blockchain space heavily from 2017, because you get fed up after a while with it all being a one-way track for one clientele.
Yeah, definitely. And I'll also add to the question is that at the end of each quarter, when financial audits are done, profits that are left, and by the way, you get to see all that those financial audits. I just kind of remind everybody of that. But at that point, when we realize how much profit we have at the end of the quarter, it's then allocated and budgeted. And one of those budgeting pools is the business operations, right? So the business also gets partially funded by the investments, as well as, obviously buybacks if we do buybacks, airdrops potentially, things like that. So I wanted to add that to the conversation as well, that part of that will also go to the business. So it's not just reliant on zone levels. Yeah, go ahead, please.
Correct. I'm sorry, and Showtime, if I could just add there, just so everyone that hears that, that's not for people like you and I and Mark to get bonuses. That's so that we can increase the principal amount to invest for the next quarter, so that, like you said, if we don't hit a growth number, if we don't hit something, we still have a bit of a remainder to add on to the principal for the previous quarter, so we're constantly working on a larger prime number.
Yeah,
that's the reason for
process, isn't it?
There is a lot of options for us to put our hands in the cookie jar. We have not, and we hope it works out.
Well, and I'll just
that's the intention behind.
I'll say this. I think I can say this. It's okay. That the people on the team have always said that I'm kind of the one that keeps everybody honest, so to speak. There's been a lot of times when
we're really calling you.
Oh, yeah. Well, there's just, whenever you're building a project, there's all sorts of ways that founders can benefit, right? We've seen this before. And, as we're discussing things, I said, well, wait a minute, that doesn't benefit the community, right? That may benefit the founders, but how does the community win in this scenario? So that's always what I'm talking about in conversations. And it's not that the team's like trying to find ways to screw the community. It's just that there's conversations that come up. We drift into different conversations. I say, yeah, I understand that, but at the end of the day, the community has to win too. It's it's okay if the founders win, but the community has to win first. That's kind of the way I look at it. So, anyway, all right. So
Absolutely.
yeah. So somebody's asking, are you going to be putting any investments into Freeway, and will there be some kind of partnership with them? So we could. Right? And I'm not like removing that from the table. However, and I don't mean to sound negative when I say this, but Gaxis can do the same thing. And I know that the yields and the ROI that Gaxis works with a lot of the high frequency trading, quant trading, things like that, the yield can actually beat Freeway. Right? I know this because I've seen the numbers. So I'm not saying we wouldn't work with Freeway. It's just that we have a partnership with Gaxis. So kind of the idea is to work with them since they already do it. So
At 100%. And ultimately, I feel that it would be completely the antithesis of the optics we want to put forward if we were trusting our funds with somebody else, but we were telling other people, oh, well, entrust us with your funds. It seems shifty.
Yeah. Well, go ahead.
And it's like you say, Shug, when you are spending other people's monies, you want to spend it like it's your mother's money. You're even more careful with certain people's monies than even your own funds, right? You yourself may be a degen, but when it's someone else's money, you always give it that extra look, that extra once over. Sort of the same element. If you're telling people, hey, this is where you should park your money, I feel that I should be the person to park my money in that same place.
Well said. Well said. And the other thing behind that is, the whole premise of what the partnership with Gaxis is and what XETA is providing is something that you can't get by yourself. Private equity, a wealth manager, high frequency trading services. I mean, these are not things that you can get yourself. There's nothing wrong, and I don't say this as like a bad thing. It's there's nothing wrong with other projects putting their treasury into Freeway. It's just that, you as the individual could do the same thing. Right? Like you don't need a project to do something that you could do yourself. Okay, maybe you don't have 500K to put in there, but you got to remember that's still being divvied up among however many holders. So at the end of the day, the whole goal is to provide you with something you cannot already do. If you can already do it, then what are we here to serve you for? Really, right? So anyway, that's that.
100%.
So somebody's asking, at what price points will the token be defended? For example, the pre-sale is $75 per token, and the public will be at $100. Is $100 the lowest price you would allow it to reach? So I want to. I've mentioned this before. I'll mention it again. This is not a for sure thing. Okay, these are just conversations we're having right now about potentially pegging the token price. That might happen. That might not happen. I think we'll know something fairly soon with that. If that did happen, we actually would not need to buy the token back because it would be fixed inside of a range, and that range would then increase as we hit milestones. If we do that, we would not need to do buybacks. If we do end up doing buybacks, then yes, I would see $100 being the point in which we would defend the price. Here's the thing with buybacks. You have to understand that as the token price goes up, it requires more money to sort of defend that price. So you have to be making money exponentially as the token price goes up. So you can't, I can't guarantee we would defend every single new all-time high, but I think we would defend a very reasonable range. So that's the answer to that question. Here's a question I'm going to pass over to Mark, and the question is, has Gaxis been in the bot leasing business for a while, or will its use with XETA Capital be the first?
Okay, so yeah, this goes back to the algo bots that I was talking about earlier. So we've got previous experience in algo bots. We've used KuCoin for parameter bots. We've used Pinex, Crypto Hopper. We have a couple of bots that are under NDA, which have gave us tremendous results that we've had partnership deals with. All the algo bots we've traded with BTC and Ethereum. We've not really gone on altcoin, like trading bots. We've been with the top two coins. So look, it's we get good returns from all the previous algo bots that we've used. Of course, we've had some that have done better than others, and I'm sure I could probably find some of the back testing reports for them. We are currently working on building our own bot, which is in sort of mid-stage development, which will be on the Python network. I'm not an expert in development of, so this is just what I know from being involved. But we've done grid trading. We obviously do the DCA trading with the bots as well, where they're buying in set parameters, like I said before. So we have a very good experience in that area. We don't just rely on that though. We have seasoned traders that manually trade, like I said previously. So again, I go back to the situation we're in now, in the market that's capitulating quite heavy. We don't rely on a bot for extreme movements in the market. We have traders that trade around the clock in shift patterns throughout the world that are trading the portfolios. So it's algo is just one stream of how we make your money work. And yeah, in short, we have experience in it.
And then also, if I could just tag on at the end there,
Sure.
Particularly for the levels and tiered triage levels, bot leasing that will be provided to our members, those will be customized. Those will be XETA only. And that goes back to what I was talking about earlier with Dan and Mark going and we're stealing all these different programs.
yeah. I mean, like I said, it's at the moment, obviously, from our perspective, it's our own pool of funds that come in collectively as one unit that is traded. But look, I'm sure there's options when we finish the build on the bot that is being built, which is a massive project in itself. It's not, this isn't an equivalent of a white label bot that we just, take the name of, and this is our own developed bot. We will be able to, for people that are members, we will be able to do some sort of plug-in system where they can benefit from it themselves. But again, that will be further down the line.
Excellent. Thank you.
No problem.
We do have someone raising their hand. Go ahead and start raising your hand, guys. Got a couple more questions left, and we will try to get to you, as many of you as we can once we're finished. So go ahead and just start raising your hand if you don't mind. Let's see here. So obviously this is a question that's already been answered, but will there be financial services from the catalog available at public launch, or will they be available by the first quarter? It will be by the end of the first quarter. Now, it's very possible they would be ready before the end of the first quarter, but again, end of the first quarter is like the drop dead date. Just, FYI to let you know. And we will tell you what the zone tiers are. My goal is to let you guys know at least a month before we actually release them. We'll give you as much notice as possible on that so that you can kind of plan accordingly. And
just to interject on these real-world products, because these questions keep coming up, and no, I'm happy to give an example of just one product if you want, which is a convertible loan note, which just so people understand what the real-world products are. Do that now if you want, or not. It's entirely up to you guys.
Yeah.
Okay, so Okay, I just think because when it's come up twice, people it's probably
Yes.
it is one people want to know the answer, so I'm happy to explain.
These people have been hurt. These people have been hurt, Mark. That's why it's asked. So.
Okay, well, look, I'll explain just one of the simple products, but a very safe product. So it's a secured convertible loan note, which is a commercial development of office space similar to, and don't take this as a negative because I know WeWorks is running a loss on paper still, but we're not. This isn't an equity deal. We're buying into the commercial product. This is just a secured loan note. So what is a secured loan note? So a secured loan note is where a company is borrowing the money off us, and let's say $10 million, just for easy numbers. Now, in order for us to do the deal with this company, they have to have at least 5 times in assets, liquid assets, right? So if we're going to give them 10 million, they have to have 50 million in liquid assets. The reason for that, which I'm sure everyone understands, is if that company went into administration, there's enough money to pay the debt back, right? But what we also do is these are short-term loan notes. So these are a 12-month loan note with the capital repayment on the 13th month. And these pay a monthly coupon. So every month a yield comes in, which everyone benefits from, which gives a return. Okay, I can't quote what the per annum is and break it down on monthly because it varies on each project. So they're full security. There's debenture over the company and the assets. There's always a security trustee involved. And I'll explain what a security trustee is. I'm sure a lot of people know it, but it's just so that somebody, if in the event something ever went wrong, there's an impartial regulated company that actually goes through dealing with the disbursement of the funds if there's a problem, okay? And there's also always a team of tier 1 professional advisors involved and legal sign-off. So that's just one example of a secured loan note, and it's safe. And this is, I just want to sort of explain a bit more detail because this is one of the bits that I'm passionate about. And I think the reason I'm passionate about it is because I've been in the crypto space so long myself personally. I've gone through cycles of ups and downs, and I, for a few years, got stuck in the crypto black hole where I'm just the hold on for dear life and, all this sort of stuff. And you start believing it. And that's not what crypto is about. Crypto is about buying into the right project, making the right return, and then moving that funds into real world products. So not all of it, but some of it, so that your family and your children or your parents or whoever you're providing for in life is financially protected. And I see so many people that go through massive hypes and they make loads of money and they stay in the same space and they don't use this real world solution, and then they go back down on a capitulation like right now. And there's even a bigger upside to this because when the market does capitulate, guess what? For once, these people that are screaming that their portfolios dropped 8x will be cheering because you liquidate the position of these, if you like, these off-chain products, and then you buy the dip when you buy back in with your holdings, and then the market goes back on the next cycle and you win again. And that's how you make money in this space. And that's not me saying it in an arrogant way because guess what? I lost a fortune in the crypto market in the first cycle because I got caught out myself, and I learned by making the mistakes. And I've used that, what I've learned, never to do it again and help other people with this process.
Yeah, I just want to mention, like, these are the kind of people we're dealing with, folks, with Gaxis. These kinds of products that they are, investment vehicles, I should say, probably the more proper word, that you're hearing about are what they invest in, but these are also potential services we can offer down the road. Like when I say these 3 services coming out at the end of first quarter, those are just the first 3. Okay, the plan is to have a whole lot more than just 3. So kind of keep in mind there's all these different things that people, including myself, by the way, would not know how to do off chain. Bringing that on chain to provide a lot more stability too, by the way. And these things provide more stability also for the investments overall for the project as well. So just something to kind of keep in mind there. Thank you for that, Mark. That was very educational. Yeah. Okay, I got a couple more questions. Then we will start getting some live questions. Go ahead and raise your hand if you would like to come up to start get the ball rolling on that. So somebody says they want to basically, I'll kind of just summarize the question. If they buy from the pre-sale, how much is the fee to create the zone on launch day? Okay, there is a monthly membership fee of $15. When you build your zone, you are paying that up front for the first month. Okay, so you build your zone, it's 15 USD coin, and that covers your first month membership fee as well. So I hope that kind of provides a little bit of clarity on that. There is a question just inside the Discord that I'm reading here. Greg Savage asked a question, what's the likelihood of small zone holders to get access to one of the trading bots that can help them climb up the rank? I had asked him what is small.
Can I take that?
Yeah, please do. Please do.
So the trading bots, I can't remember exactly where it's listed at the catalog right now. Showtime, I'm sorry, I can't remember if you had released some of the pictures on your video. But what we plan to do, Greg and anyone else is listening, is for people who have a smaller position and they have fewer zones to begin with, is we do have a plan for you to be able to participate in our NFT giveaways, lotteries, and the shop itself. And by using that gamification system, you should be able to matriculate up the rank much faster than you normally would. So those are going to be the options that are available to people who want to elevate their position and sort of accelerate their movement up the zone rank so that they can get access to, for example, a trading bot, which I think is our premium service at the moment. And I hope that answers your question. If it doesn't, Greg, feel free to just tag me in Discord and I'll ping you, sir. I appreciate the question.
Yeah, I think that answers it. We'll try to do something for the people who have fewer zones, but I also want to reward people who have a lot too, right? It's a balancing act because there are people, it just is what it is. There's people that have more cash and can afford to put more in, and I want to reward that. But I also understand there's people that don't have a lot of cash and they're just doing whatever they can, and I want to reward that as well, right? So we're going to try to do everything to make as many people happy as possible. You can't always make everybody happy, but we will certainly try to do that. Actively.
Well, Showtime, and I actually, sorry, one moment. I addressed that in the Discord. The numbers can be misleading sometimes. If you have $1,000 and it gets 10x, you have $10,000. You had a net gain of $9,000. If you have $10,000 and you get 10x, you have $100,000. You have a $90,000 increase. $90,000 is much more than $9,000. However, both plots of money were treated the same. They were both 10x. So it's one of those things where we treat everybody's money the same. You have the same, you have the same bargaining power. It's just that if you have more zones, you have access to more because your position's a little bit stronger. It's a mathematical issue. But that's why we've implemented all these systems, and I think they're going to be a little bit fun. They're going to be easy to understand. I think that people will find them very beneficial. And I just don't want to say more because I don't want to be the guy that hypes things up and you have to wait 4 or 5 days before you start getting announcements about it.
Sure.
So I think we want to announce more things about the NFTs when we have the artwork a little bit closer.
Yes.
Prime time. So I'm sure for that. Sorry.
Definitely. Someone wants to know if we are going to try to implement some feature where only zone holders can trade the token. So I did speak to our development team about this. I said, hey, I think the statistic is something like 90% of trading in and out is done by bots. And that's the reason why, well, that's not the only reason why everything follows Bitcoin. It's just everything's kind of paired to it by default. But that is one reason bots see things getting sold off and they sell off, and they kind of tend to run the price down. So there is a way to do this. It is something we're working on. It's a little technically not impossible, just a little challenging. We have to get kind of creative with it. So to answer your question, yeah, I'm trying to find ways for us to not have the day trading bots come in and just trade back and forth and start knocking the price down. I mean, at the end of the day, I prefer to just have the trading being done by humans who are zone holders and actually believe in the project, not just trying to trade something and make $5 per trade kind of thing. So yeah, we are working on something to try to combat that as well. So I'm going to go ahead and bring up actively investing passively. It's a cool name. I'm going to go ahead and invite you to speak. You're going to have an invite come to the top of your screen. Just go ahead and accept that.
Is this your doppelganger?
I'm wondering. I'm wondering. And make sure you unmute yourself, buddy, before you start talking. Should be a little mute button at the bottom of your screen.
Oh, there we go. Stuck it on mute.
How you doing?
All right. Pretty good. How are you and your wife doing? Recovering from COVID?
We're recovering. It's like weird. These symptoms like come one day and they go away, and you get something totally different the next day. So yeah. I'm doing well though. Thank you for asking.
Good. So I just wanted to talk a little bit more about the trading bots. I think that's something a lot of people are excited about. And when it was discussed earlier in this AMA, I just wanted clarification. So are the bots that are currently being used by Gaxis, are those public bots that anyone has access to currently, but they're building their own that they're working on currently, and that's once that build is completed, that's what we would have access to within XETA? And then just a little bit more around like the performance. So the performance that was talked about previously, is that based on those public bots, but we don't know what the performance of this new created bot would be yet at this point?
Yeah, sure. Do you want me to answer this?
Yeah, you probably be the most qualified here, Mark.
Yeah. Thanks for your question. They are, at the moment, they are, if you like, off-the-shelf bots that we've used previously. We do have two or three private bots that we use as well, which further down the line, I'm sure we can, once we've got our own bot built and we finish contracting with these private bots, we can probably show the back-tested reports on them as well. But at the minute we can't, because we're under NDA, because they're not for public domain. It's one of them where we don't want to. We entered an agreement with a few large development companies, and the deal was that we have an exclusive deal with them. And it's the same old thing. If you throw too much of your secret success at, everyone's going to jump on that. So we've kept them to ourselves, but we've got a mixture of off the shelf and, if you like, bespoke bots. In regards to the sort of returns that they're achieving, off the top of my head, I wouldn't know the answer to that, but I would be able to get the back-tested reports uploaded for the mainstream bots, which would be able to give you an idea of what sort of yields they're gaining on a monthly basis.
And Mark, if I could ask a question, the bot that we had alluded to in Discord, there's one particular bot that we've been talking about. It's the one that Dan had mentioned in our first AMA. That's one of the bespoke bots, correct?
Correct.
Okay. So to answer your question, sir, the one that we've been talking about in Discord particularly is one of these bespoke bots. So it would not be one that's accessible to even private high net worth or ultra high net worth or ultra.
Yeah, I mean, like I say, we have the off the shelf ones. Again, it's just because you're trying to diversify in every area. So we never hang our hat just on one strategy. I mean, I don't know how many strategies, like what I said earlier, with the fact that we've got manual people trading, which I actually prefer, similar to what Showtime said. I've not been I know bots have a great purpose in this space, and they make a lot of money and for people, and it's difficult to trade 24 hours a day. So there is a strong purpose for them. We have, a spectrum of different ways that we, invest and make the money. But yeah, I'm sure we can get uploaded the back testing results for everyone to see.
Did that answer your question, sir?
Yeah, it did. Yeah, I appreciate that. I just wanted a little bit more insight on that, and just to be able to see the history of past performance to try to project a little bit in the future to see if it performs consistently what that would do for our investment. So yeah, I appreciate that insight.
Thank you.
Thanks for your
Again,
question.
like Mark said, we 100% intend to have the audited histories of these out, so literally, thank you for requiring that, because again, that's where we feel like we separate ourselves from the other projects out there, is that we intend to have those deliverables because we think you deserve them. Don't take our word for it. Here's what we've done so far. We don't have a crystal ball, but
I'll also say this too. Yeah, I'll also say this too, that before any of these financial services come out, you're going to be inundated with data and information about them. That will include the high frequency trading. You're going to see past performance. You're going to see dashboards. You're going to see, probably even audited reports over spanning. I mean, some of these have been going 7, 8, 9 years. Some a little less than that, but you guys will have more information you probably even want to see prior to these coming out, so that you can look at this and say, hey, this is something I legitimately really want to use, or no, this doesn't really something that I care about. But you can make that information based on all the data we'll provide you as well. So,
and that's actually a design discussion that we have on the back end, because, like Mark said before, the whole point is that the people that are going to be reading these reports, what information could they ingest and understand without, having to have X, Y, and Z prior information? So what we're trying to do is design one layer of a dashboard where a layman could come in. They understand. People understand color theory. People understand, oh, my numbers are higher than they were before. This is the percent. I can see what I'm doing, having that level. And then for the more discerning member, maybe for somebody who has a little bit more experience in the field, maybe having a deeper dive version where they could go in and start pulling more specific KPIs. That is also what we intend. So I just want to throw that out there, so that, again, if version 1 of the dashboard doesn't get as hyper-focused or hyper-detailed, we do intend to have revisions and continue to grow it. Right now, we're just trying to focus on the core competencies and making sure that they're audited, executed, and working.
anything else we can answer for you?
No, that addressed my questions. Thank you, guys.
I appreciate you, man. Thanks so much.
Thank you. Thanks.
Anybody else want to raise your hand and come up? I can go over just a couple more questions. We've been going an hour here, but just some ones I'm finding in Discord that were asked, that were starred. So I'm going to try to understand this question, and I apologize. I don't mean to sound condescending when I answer it or when I read it. So someone had asked, what were the thoughts of releasing tokens into circulation when 20 million are in the rewards pool? Well, you have to have circulating supply, right? I mean, everything in the rewards pool just comes out to zone holders as pending rewards. But you also have to have tokens in circulation for the DEX to be tradable. Otherwise, you wouldn't have tokens to build the zones in the first place. So I hope I'm understanding the question. I'm not sounding condescending with my answer. And then a couple more questions in the same one is, does the company plan to profit initially on token trades? No, we do not trade tokens. We don't trade our own tokens, certainly. We would never do that. I would never do that. It would make no sense. Hence, one of the reasons, by the way, we send all 10 tokens into the rewards pool. I don't know of another project that does that. Maybe someone does, but every project usually puts some degree of tokens into liquidity, which causes a sell on the back end. And then they put tokens into the treasury, which they have to sell those in order to make them liquid. Then they put them into business operations. Again, they have to sell those, right? So we're just saying, hey, we're putting all 10 into the rewards pool, and all those other ventures are funded by the fees, which the fees are all in USD coins. So there's never any sell pressure. We don't trade the token at all. And then finally, the person's asking who holds the tokens and who profits from the trade. So again, we don't trade the token. Who holds the tokens? It would just be a smart contract that releases them on an as-needed basis, either automatically or manually. So hope that answers that question. I'm trying to find.
When I had read that,
go ahead.
Shanta, I'm sorry if I could add on to that question.
Yeah,
just at the very end there, because when I read it, I kind of had the same thought pattern as you. I think I messaged you and said, hey, what do you think they're trying to ask here? Because I don't understand it. And again, not to be condescending, but I actually read it a little differently than you did. And I thought they were asking if when folks purchase their Zeta coins from the DEX, are they buying it from us directly, and are we profiting from every coin sell? I thought that was the question, and the answer is no. So technically, when they said who profits, I maybe I just way overthought it, but my thought was, well, in a swap, technically, don't both people profit? One person's getting what they think has value, the other person's getting what they feel has value. But I would say it's probably the seller. But that's done between individual members. And just for anyone who might be a little bit newer to this space, the way that a decentralized exchange works is that when you see the exchanges, the buys and the sells come through, those aren't necessarily from our company to a customer. It could be from member to member. It's an anonymous swap back through the distributed public ledger.
I'm glad that we have a different mind here, because after you answered it that way, that actually makes a lot more sense than the way I read that. I don't know why I even read it that way, but no, you're right. I would also say, though, that on the DEX, there's a nominal transaction fee where a majority of that goes to charity. So I can tell you that when it's traded on the actual DEX, aside from the trade itself, there's a percentage that will go to charity. So that's just kind of an add on to the answer of that question as well. Let's see. Actively investing passively. You have another question, I believe?
Yep, sorry, I forgot about this question when I was up earlier.
No problem.
So one thing that I saw too is Gaxis invests in real estate. And I was wondering about a potential future option. It would be if there would be options for like a syndication fund, like in the United States. You invest and you can be a limited partner and benefit from depreciation, and then you're issued out a K1 at the end of the year. Is that something that could be a potential option down the road as well?
Yes. So we have a program that we're trying to figure out and finesse internally of ways that we can offer options like that for sort of a pro service membership with Zeta. One of the issues there is if you want a K1, you have to KYC. Again, we are with our current project, there's no requirement to KYC. And so if you wanted to do something to that level and you want to participate in something that give you a K1, for those that aren't in America, that's an investment forum where you can provide and file for your gains and losses through investments and shares that you hold. Anyway, I'm sorry, I don't want to get detracted from that, but again, because we're speaking to people from different countries, the idea is you would have to KYC. So that might be more of a premium tiered service that we offer at a future time. But what you're speaking about are sleeves that we wanted to particularly add. And so like Showtime said before, we're providing 3 services that we'll be releasing in the first quarter. That catalog will grow. And over the years of the project, it's going to grow exponentially. Did that answer your question, sir? Sorry, I hope I did.
Absolutely. Yep, I did. And that'll be my last question because I'm about to go to the new Minions movie with my daughter.
Hey, have a good time.
Thanks, guys.
Take care now. Have a good time with the movie.
Thank you.
Let's see here. I'm running low on questions, but I do have some. So somebody's wondering what happens after 28 days if they don't pay their membership fee. Like, will they lose their rewards? So I know a lot of projects, and I'm not going to name them here, that if you don't pay your rewards, if you don't pay your fees, you will lose your rewards. I don't want to do that. I don't think that's fair, right? Especially if you just miss it by a day or two. Like, that's really not fair for you to lose your rewards. So no, the idea is that if you don't pay within 28 days, your zone just gets paused. Rewards are paused. The whole thing's paused. At some point, if you just never paid, I think the zone would have to go away at some point. I just don't know what that is. But I mean, realistically, it can't just sit there paused forever because those are tokens, allocated from the rewards pool. So we'll work on those technical details. But no, if you don't pay by day 28 and you go day 29, 30, 31, 32, and so on, your zone just gets paused, your rewards get paused, and then you come and pay your fee and it reactivates everything. So that's the answer to that question. I think that's it for the questions, unless anyone wants to raise their hand and come up, or unless, Mark or Gavin, you want to guys end with something. Any kind of closing thoughts you guys have?
Yeah, I mean, I would say interesting what Gavin said about the US structure, and we have a similar structure that we use in the UK which is the EIS system, which is a tax benefiting system for investment protocols. So again, it just highlights how big of a project this is, that we have all different jurisdictions of and different people from different countries. So it's a big, exciting project and job, and we're just looking forward to progressing and pushing on and making it a massive success.
Yeah, and I really do think the community would benefit from, you and Dan and maybe some other folks from Gaxis coming on and just answering all the Gaxis questions.
Yeah.
Like, what licenses do you guys hold? Give us like some idea of, your history, all sorts of stuff. And then, because, this is a whole new world for a lot of people in crypto, right? Like the traditional finance world. I mean, most of the people in crypto, aside from the institutions, let's just kind of face it, are folks who are working like a job. They just want to make money to support their families. That's really it. So when you talk about a lot of these traditional finance instruments, it kind of is like, what are you talking about, kind of thing. So
I get it's like a foreign language. I mean, just so you know, and I'm sure this has been said, we're an SRO member. We're registered with the VQF, the Swift Financial, and we've registered with FINMA. The licenses that we hold crypto licenses as well for crypto to fiat to crypto, OTC agreements. The list is, I could sit on here for another 20 minutes going through all the licenses. It's probably better for another AMA, like you say, and we can deep dive into all that, no problem.
Definitely.
Beautiful. And if I could just piggyback on that to answer a question that gets asked often, and if anyone's thinking about it, that's viewing this live via another medium, is how is this legal? We are a company that is incorporated in Wyoming. All the funds are handled by the smart contract, and the funds never touch the U.S. The funds never touch XETA. All the investment funds are handled by Gaxis. Our crypto is held by Bank Frick, and all of our fiat is held by Credit Suisse. Just because we get a lot of questions, again, depending on which country you are in, are we in compliance with that country's investment requirements or their compliance governance? And the answer is yes, because Gaxis is, and that's one of the requirements of them being hyper regulated SRO.
Yeah, and I think that will be like what you guys saying. We could, if we have another AMA, happy to go through that with Dan as well. Go through the compliance side of the boring bit, if you like, but it's just as important because it protects the whole thing. So yeah, we can do that, and everyone will understand it. We'll explain it in sort of simple terms, and I don't mean that condescending, but this is the sort of things that compliance people study for 5-6 years to fully understand and take exams yearly to be up to speed with different legislation. So it's not saying that people don't or won't understand it. It's just explaining it in an uncomplicated way so that you're not explaining all the pointless stuff that isn't required. Otherwise, we'd have a 4-hour AMA just going over the subtitles of the licenses.
Yeah, and again,
it's like those folks in LinkedIn that have 50 acronyms behind their names because they want they're hyper accredited.
Yeah,
absolutely, and that's what has me again excited. When you're excited to work or work on a project, I should say, and to help people doing it, you kind of have a extra pep in your step. I may say you don't get out of bed tired in the morning; you kind of jump out of bed, and Zeta is one of those things that makes me jump out of bed in the morning. Even to the degree, if I'm sick, I'm still, getting on and doing a live stream. Probably not a very smart thing to do, but just, kind of the thing that you do when you're super excited about something, you love what you're doing. And if there's no other questions, I think we will wrap this up. This has been streaming on YouTube the whole time, and you can go and watch it as soon as we're finished here. So, by the way, I've mentioned this a couple of times. When we launch publicly, the idea is this will be streamed to Twitter, to YouTube, and I'll be on camera. Not going to make anybody else get on camera unless they want to, but to make this a little bit more personal. And also, there's a lot of people, in traditional finance that are just not on Discord. They don't even know what Discord is. It's mostly for gamers kind of thing. So it'll be available in a lot of places, and we'll be able to take questions from Twitter and YouTube as well, just to have a little bit of a different interaction. So I want to thank you guys for joining us. We will be having more AMAs. Kind of the idea is, since we're still in pre-sale here, we're probably not going to have weekly AMAs unless there's something, big or important to talk about, or unless there's a lot of questions. Again, we'll be having an AMA just with the Gaxis folks, and we'll be on, probably every couple of weeks, something of that degree, unless some big news comes up. So I want to thank you for joining us. Take care, and until next time, thanks a lot.
Thanks for having us. Thank you very much.
Take care.
All right, have a good evening. Bye-bye.